So we're working on the install of a rear Addco sway bar on a 62 TR4. A couple of modifications to the suspension before we get into the sway bar. You'll note at the top, if you can see it there, the aluminum spacer. I've lowered the car 1 inch, so there's a 1 inch aluminum spacer block installed, and I've had to upsize my U-bolts to be able to accommodate the height that I'm running. I wasn't able to find U-bolts in the original manufacturer dimension with the right length, like that is the diameter or the width of the shackle. So I've had to drill out the plate supplied by Addco so it'll fit over the bottom of the shackle. You'll see it's installed per the instructions on the outboard shackle pin rear. So that's set up. I've done that both sides. I'll scan across and you'll notice in the instructions it shows that the sway bar should fit over the exhaust pipe. Well, in the rear section beyond the rear axle, I actually have a silencer or muffler, a short one, probably the resonator actually, and there's no way the sway bar fits over the height of that resonator. So I was running only the one-piece muffler for a bit. I do have a pipe that I'll fit in there, and I'm pretty sure it'll fit underneath the sway bar. So something else I realized that was not in the instructions is it's pretty important, at least I think logic would dictate to me anyway, it's pretty important that you find the center of the sway bar. Because as I tried to dry mount this thing, I found that shifting it left to right, there's not a lot of clearance between the end links and the actual tires and rim. So it's got to be a pretty accurate install, and I would think that if the bar is not centered, it's going to have an impact on handling. So I rigged up this little device here using a long 48-inch level with a square, going from the one eye at the one end, center of the eye, to the center of the eye at the other end, and it's exactly 39 inches. And so 19.5 would be center, and then I used a square, lined the square up with the flat edge of the green ruler, came across to the sway bar, and I've marked the center of the sway bar. The other thing I realized when I was dry mounting it is the sway bar is not symmetrical. The bends are different on the left than they are on the right. So this piece here is much longer on the right side than it is on the left, because originally I was measuring just the centerpiece from that corner to this corner and thinking center was right about there, and that was obviously way off. And then I noticed, you know, I'm kind of dumb, a little slow here in the draw, I realized that the sway bar is really not symmetrical. So I've got the sway bar perfectly centered across the chassis, measuring from the outside of the frame rail to the center point that I'd mocked up before, side to side. It's exactly 15 1/8 from the outside of each of the left and right frame rails. And you can see there's not a whole heck of a lot of clearance. I can't even get a finger in between the tire and the sway bar. It'd be interesting on the track how that does under a lot of stress and maybe a little sidewall movement. Hopefully I don't puncture a tire. But that's the setup they're giving me. So we'll run it on the street fairly hard, see how it goes. A couple of test runs. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to snug up the U-bolt here at the back that's holding the Addco mounting plate so that I'm locked into position. I'll do that on both sides. Then what I'll do is I will come back and I'll position the mounting brackets here with the bushings bottom of the frame rail, and then it's time to drill. Measure 20 times, drill once. Okay, so I've got the sway bar snugged up at the end links, and now I'm raising the bar up to the frame to identify where the mounting points are for the bushings and brackets. So observation, raise the bar up using a jack, placing the jack in the center position of the bar, and I raise it up and the left bushing makes contact with the frame. Nice. However, the bushing on the right side is probably about 1.5 inches from the bottom of the frame. So I'll jack it up some more. And the right bushing is now just on the frame, and the jack is now starting to pick up the load of the body of the car. So I don't know, I mean, I've never installed sway bars before. I don't know if that's supposed to be like that or what. Comments welcome. And now the end links are cranked back rather than being 90-degree vertical. And you can see again, there's not a lot of clearance with the tire sidewall. So I'm going to go ahead now. I'm going to place the brackets over the bushings and mark my drill points. So remember I said measure 21 times before drilling? Well, maybe I only measured 20 times. So let's back it up. I positioned the mounting bracket over the bushing and centered on each slot on either side of the mounting plate, center punched and drilled. But guess what? The Addco people, when they built the bar, or the U-bolt that goes up inside the frame, you take it up one hole, you manipulate it around and bring it down through the other hole. This width is not center to center. So I've got two choices. I can turn the frame into Swiss cheese, or I can attempt to bend the U-bolt and bring the bottom of the U-bolt tips closer together so they'll fit through the space between the two holes that I pre-drilled. Into the vise, maybe a little heat and a little hammer, tap a tap, and see how we do. So we've got our U-bolts adjusted so that the ends of the U-bolts match up with the holes that I mistakenly drilled in the wrong spots. So make sure that you're lining up your hole drill points using the U-bolt, not the clamp like I did. I centered the drill points and mark them to the centers of the slots. If you use the U-bolt, then you've got the flexibility for accuracy by moving the clamp back and forth based on the slots. Okay, so the other thing too is the Addco instructions suggest a 3/8 drill hole to get the U-bolt through. The U-bolt is 3/8, but I'll be darned if you can fit that U-bolt up into the frame like I'm going to illustrate and bring it down through the other hole. So I did a 3/8 on one side, and I did probably 7/16 on the second side. So I'm going to start feeding it up in there. Always remember as well to put a nut on the end of that U-bolt on one side. Heaven forbid you get that U-bolt up in there and you push it up just in your effort to bring it down through the other hole, you press it up a little bit too high and you lose it. Now you've got a permanent U-bolt stuck in your frame, rattling. Now I got the thread through the frame enough that I can get a nut on there and be able hopefully to pull it through. Oh yeah, the other thing I did too, before putting the U-bolt through, I don't know if you could see that in the video, but I painted the frame holes with rust preventative paint. I think I'm gonna get a little persuasion on that. I'm going to go easy with this because I don't want to strip the threads. Okay, I think I have enough thread protruding to be able to get the clamp on. Let's just see here. Yep, that should do. Okay, so now I'm going to raise my jack to raise the bar up into position. There we go. All right, that looks like one side. Scary actually how thin the frame wall metal really is. I didn't really measure it, but boy, it's a lot thinner and pretty easy to drill through. It's no wonder these things rot out. Okay, over to the other side.